Getting ready to take on spring? Make your first move with the reliable performance and power of Steel battery tools. From hedge trimmers and mowers to string trimmers and more, right now you can save $50 on select battery tool sets. Real Steel. Offer valid on select AK system sets through June 16, 2024. See participating retailer for details.
Imagine relying on a dozen different software programs to run your business, none of which are connected, and each one more expensive and more complicated than the last. It can be pretty stressful. Now, imagine Odoo. Odoo has all the programs you'll ever need, and they're all connected on one platform. Doesn't Odoo sound amazing? Let Odoo harmonize your business with simple, efficient software that can handle everything for a fraction of the price. Sign up today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday's edition, right, of Big Blue
it
Kickoff
is.
Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Sorry for the late start. We had a late pinch hitting appearance. I'm in for Casillas. We'll see if we can slide him in later in the week. I'm Schmeelk. He's Dottino. Paul, what do you want to talk about today? Because I have not prepared for this at all. What do you got?
Well, you know, I was originally going to talk to Jonathan about the mentality that you have as a rookie, and this rookie class coming in has a lot of expectations, how your mentality kind of gets changed and altered from the time you're drafted to the time you report to training camp.
No, we're not doing that.
But since you are not a rookie,
Would you like to compare? Would be to compare this to my first training camp in 2007
Yeah,
in Albany?
exactly.
No, you don't want me to do that?
that was going to be the starting point for what we were going to do today, but we cannot do that. By the way, the show is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle.
I said that.
Did
I
you?
got that in. Yeah,
Did it?
that's
I'm
what I got
sorry.
in.
I didn't catch that.
No, that's
I
what
didn't
I
catch
got.
that.
I didn't get that one.
We are running like a fire drill, trying to get that field goal off before the final buzzer in the fourth quarter here today. So here's what I thought was a bit interesting earlier when the guys came in and they did their conditioning drills. They all wore all their GPS things and their vests and all the stuff that they need for the technical technology to take over to give their heartbeats and their heart rates and their breathing and all that other stuff that they got to do. And, I know we're not really supposed to take people a lot behind the curtain, but it looked as though it's a very mild day here today, John. And I've gone through a lot of these over my years, and I've seen guys puke. I've seen guys crawling to the finish line of their gassers. I've seen guys flat out just fall onto the ground and not finish. I didn't see that today. And again, I know we really can't say a whole lot, but it appeared to me that the team was relatively calm and in good shape, and I didn't see any horrifying stories that I could relate.
Oh, that's good. I think we would avoid horrifying stories. That's a good thing. So first practice is tomorrow. It's going to be a shorter practice, probably only about an hour and a half or so, to try to figure out exactly where these guys are. You don't want to rush them into things. Like they do every year, they're going to start with red zone stuff. They're going to keep the things close to the goal line to see what you don't want guys running out full-out sprints over long periods. That's how you're going to pull muscles and hamstrings and quads and calves early in camp. So they'll keep things a little close to the vest the first couple of days. They're going to ramp up, start with T-shirts and shorts, go to helmets and shells, and then they'll go from there in terms of their day off on Sunday, then they'll come back with pads on Monday. So, and it looks like the weather this week should be pretty good.
Mild 76 degrees today. And folks, if you know anything about what's happened in the New York metropolitan area, we've had some 90-degree days, mid-90s, heat indexes of over 100. This is incredibly cool for what we have experienced over the first half of July.
Yeah, so let's make this our training camp preview, by the way, and we'll take your calls. We already have a couple people on the line, 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. We'll get a lot of calls in today. We'll talk a little bit about what we're looking forward to here at training camp, Paul. So we're not going to have pads until next week. So
Monday.
Obviously, I think what both of us want to see is how this offensive line blocks this defensive line. That's the first thing on my list, but we're not going to see that for 6 days.
No.
So let's not talk about that. So when camp first opens tomorrow, fans will be here. We'll get to see. We're probably not even going to have wide receiver DB one-on-ones early in camp. We didn't have them last year.
No, I don't think we will.
We're not going to have private
those
until.
He doesn't want those guys busting their butt.
Correct, and usually they're going to press in those situations, right? So you're probably not going to wait till pads come on for that either.
I don't think so.
So early on, I think what you're looking for, Paul, is just to see if they're organized in team drills. How quickly, and not rather how quickly, how well did what they learned in the spring carry over in terms of playbook, knowledge? Are they organized? Substitutions, false starts, offsides, procedural penalties. Try to keep things as clean as possible early on in these training camp practices.
Well, if you'll recall, during the offseason, we kept hearing the word install. They're installing this, they're installing that. So the idea in the first couple of days here, when they're going through these light drills and workouts, is to see what the players retained. Really, that's the whole key. You're absolutely right, John. And for me, okay, the other thing that I'm looking at, besides the players themselves and their demeanor and their body language, I'm looking at the coaches to see how much teaching they have to do. Because if they're seeing guys lining up in the wrong spot, and they're constantly going over to them, and they're you could see they're explaining, and they're getting very anxious, and they're getting very animated about, hey, you got to do this, you got to make sure when he does that, when you see that, you know that something is a bit awry. So I look at the coaches a lot during these early couple of practices, because what they're doing, what their body language can tell you, and how much they're yelling can give you an indication as to how much the players are following their directions.
Yeah, and the good news is that even though there's no pads early, the contact rules from the spring are no longer in effect. So even without pads, you can do contact. Now, the coaches without pads don't want a lot of contact because that's how you get hurt. You fall down, you hit the ground, you're not wearing shoulder pads, you separate shoulders, you hurt yourself. Things like that can happen, right? So there won't be a ton of contact the first few days, but there aren't any rules prohibiting it. So hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more. And, in team, how does the secondary deal with this group of wide receivers, right? We talk about the strength and weaknesses on both sides of the ball. When we did our team position rankings, right, for the Giants, is how we would rank the position groups. The two groups that were at the top of the list were the front on defense and the wide receivers on offense. And two groups at the bottom of the list, actually, O-line ended up being in the middle. But O-line in the middle, and then you had the secondary and corners and safeties at the bottom. Safeties actually I think were in the middle, but corners were towards the bottom because we
just don't know.
Don't know, right? So I think you take a look at it, and when you consider that, how does that secondary deal with this group of wide receivers in terms of how they play? You know what I mean? I do think that's important in figuring out how this group is going to come together. It's early. You're not doing one-on-ones. There's not a lot of contact, but that's something you have to figure out as you go forward here and figure out what's going on.
Well, the two first keys to any play is alignment and assignment. And when you look at these practices, honestly, that's the bulk of the grade. It's the alignment and the assignment. Did you line up in the spot you're supposed to be? And then when the play is activated, even though you're not going full bore and there's no pads, and I get all of that stuff, but when the play is activated, did you go to the right spot? Did you follow your guy because you're playing man? Or did you drop into a zone because you're supposed to be in a zone? Did you pass off the guy because there was a switch? What did you do? Did you, for example, if you're an edge guy, okay, did you hold your ground on the edge or did you rush the passer? What was the play calling for? That's the kind of stuff that's going to be great at these first few practices. So when you folks come out here on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there's 3 in a row, right? Then off Saturday? Is that right, John?
Off Sunday. I believe there's 4 in a row off Sunday.
Off 4 in a row. Okay, so when you come out and you watch those practices, that's the kind of stuff you want to be looking for, because you're not going to see full pads and the full kind of competition that you would want to see when those guys are really going at it.
Yep, absolutely. I think it'll be interesting to see. All right, let's get to the calls. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Unless there's something else that you really want to keep an eye on early in camp here before.
No, I mean, we pretty much lined it up because, again, in all honesty, you have to have a trained eye to understand some of this stuff, because there are those people who will come out and say, well, what happened? I came out to practice and they weren't in gear. Well, that's because they're not allowed to be.
Right.
CBA says you can only have so many practices in gear. So then how do you grade the other practices? And that's what we tried to educate you on today is what can you look for and what do you grade in those other practices when they're not in full uniform?
Yeah, 100%. Guys, don't forget, go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. A lot of good stuff going on there. We're going to have our reaction to Hard Knocks episode 4, which is a lot of draft stuff coming your way tomorrow. That'll be a lot of fun. Up there right now, we have our interview, Paul's interview with Marcus Kuhn. We have the next group of 10 players in the Giants top 100. Go check that out. And then later in the week, we're going to have our final position, group of position interviews. That's safeties. And then next week, we'll start doing season preview stuff, training camp stuff. Paul will have some alumni interviews as well. That'll be the next few weeks. But we're not going to focus unless we have a couple, national reporters that come here for camp. We'll talk some Giants. But if you really want what's going on at training camp, Big Blue Kickoff Live is the show you're going to want to check out. That's going to be our recap show every day, and that's really going to feature everything we do here. So make sure you go check that out. 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Let's go to Peter in Connecticut. He'll lead us off today. Hi, Peter.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener.
Well, thanks, Peter. What's going on?
Yeah, when I started watching the Giants, the defensive line was Robustelli, Modulewski, Greer, and Katkavich. How do you like that?
Know him well.
1957. Look, I want to talk about the X factor a little bit. I mean, everybody's knocking the Giants' offensive line. I think that's crazy. Thomas and Eliminator. That Illuminator, I guess his name.
Eliminator, I like that though.
The Eliminator, yeah.
I like that. That's a good nickname.
He better be Eliminator. That's going to be a tough left side, weak side of the line. And Schmidt's not a rookie. And Runyon, he's been 3-year starter. Neal never had a chance.
No, Peter, look, I think you feel better about the group, but we haven't seen this group do it together yet. And I think that's why people still, understandably, how the last 10 years have gone, why people still have questions. I think everyone is at the point where it's like, look, we got to see it to believe it at this point, given how the last decade has gone on this offensive line.
I will say this, though. It is an interesting a side of beef, if you will, along the left with Thomas and Illuminor.
Yeah, the big guys.
Both of those guys are 330, John. Think about that. That's a lot of body mass that a pass rush is going to have to try to get through.
That's true. I think as far as two ex-people you better think about is one is Cager and the other one is Ford Wheaton. Cager, the coaches don't like to talk about players. It has to be really good for them to mention something. He talked about Cager. Just imagine he's playing after Robinson comes in, and you're a slot corner trying to cover him. One time it's 5'8" and fast. Next guy is 6'4" and outweighs you by 220 pounds and an 18-inch reach. That should drive somebody crazy.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Cager in there instead of Wandell on third downs. I think we'll see him there with those three wide receivers as the lone tight end. So I think you'll have both those guys on the field probably at the same time is my bet.
I will say this. You're right. Brian Dable went out of his way to praise Cager during the spring drills. And, yes, coaches usually kind of hold back on that just a little bit. And the fact that he named him certainly raised some eyebrows and made you very intrigued.
Yeah, one other guy is, and I'll get off the air after this, is Ford Wheaton. Remember, he did the 40 in 4.38 seconds. Mm-hmm. And you like something like Odunze is big. Well, he's 6'3", 220 pounds. And he was pretty good at West Virginia, except he kept on dropping the ball. And when he was off-season, he spent all the time at the practice facility. They're always saying he's going to be on the practice squad. Well, he's going to be playing, and he's going to be your big, tall guy who's going to catch the ball.
Well, Peter, it's good. Honestly, look, I think Bryce Ford Wheaton has a lot of talent and ability to the point that you just made, and appreciate the call. It's going to be, if he's on the 53, it's going to be hard for him to carve out a consistent role in this offense.
You're going to keep 6, by the way?
Slayton, Hyatt, Robinson, and Neighbors.
That's 4. Are you going to keep 6 receivers? I think probably they'll try. Depends on injuries. But I think they'll try to keep 6.
They are going to try to keep one big guy, whether that's Robinson or Boykin or Hodgins or Bryce Ford Wheaton. And then is McKenzie going to be on as a return guy? Do you count Gunner as a receiver? Would he count as 6 for you? If Gunner counts as a receiver, they're going to keep 6.
Well, then you have to.
Well, then it's 6.
Because I see no, in my opinion.
No, I would be shocked if Gunner's on this team.
I would be as well. I can't see how you let him go. After what he did on this punt return unit where he totally not only solidified it, but actually gave them some life.
Yeah.
How could you possibly let him go?
So if you're counting him in the wide receiver numbers, then I think they definitely keep 6.
You have to. You have to. And that's going to be some heck of a battle. And consider this. And you wanted something else for the people to watch for at training camp?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Watch every single rep that those receivers on the back end of the depth chart take, whether it's in the one-on-one drills, whether it's in the team drills, even if it's just in positional drills with Mike Groh, the wide receivers coach, just throwing them passes as they practice before they get to the other stuff. Watch that. Here's why. If you've got your 4 and you've got Gunner, right? You're saying he's 5, and there's going to be Mr. X's 6. Think of the battle. Allen Robinson has 3,000-yard seasons and a veteran resume that is certainly impressive, although he's not the same player that he was when he was younger. Isaiah McKenzie has the Buffalo Bills connection and also has special teams ability. Boykin was an outstanding special teams player with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a 6'4 skyscraper. Ford Wheaton, I still believe, was going to make the 53 till he blew out his ACL last year. That's 4 guys right there battling for one spot.
And you didn't even talk about Isaiah Hodgins.
I didn't even talk about Isaiah Hodgins, who was very quiet last year after that nice finish to the 2022 season. So that's 5 for one spot. 5 for one spot. And with only 3 preseason games, okay? There's not enough reps and enough targets to go around for everybody to get their share. There's just not. It's not going to happen. So these practice sessions, all of them, not just the dual practices with the Lions and the Jets, these are important, John.
No, 100%. It's going to be a heck of a competition at wide receiver. I'm with you. All right, let's go to Big Lou. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. What's going on, Big Lou?
What's going on, gentlemen? Thank you for having me.
Thanks for calling in, Big Lou. What do you got?
I wanted to talk about the workout yesterday with Greg Von Rotten. What implications that may have for the team. Does that mean that Evan Neal is still nursing his injury and won't be a go? Will we see a Luminor at right tackle and Greg Von Rotten at guard? Or what is the buzz going on around there?
Well, there hasn't been any signing yet, and we saw that report from Jeremy Fowler as well about the workout. The Giants don't confirm what guys come in to work out or not. But look, he's a guy that played guard. He's over 30. He played guard for the Raiders last year with Carmen Bursillo, so obviously he has a lot of knowledge of the player. They could just be looking to continue to get some more reinforcements at that guard position. Evan Neal had not been in yet as far as I know when that workout happened, so I don't think it's related to Evan Neal's health at all. As far as I know, we'll know whether or not Evan Neal's put on the PUP list. I imagine that has to be announced at some point to the league office by the end of today.
4 o'clock, I think.
Correct. So we'll know by the end of today, Big Lou, whether or not that's the case. But look, could they already have a lot of guards. Like, they have Marcus McKeith in there. They have Schlotman there if they need him. They have Aaron Stinney there if they need him. They do have a lot of guys in the building already that playing K guard. He was playing tackle mostly in the spring.
But they still have him.
Certainly he can play guard. So they do have a lot of guys in the building, but I think you bring in a guy like that to work out because you want to make sure if something does happen, to your point, and you got to move guys around, you have someone ready to slide in right away that you can bring in to help you. So it never hurts. He's a veteran. He's played in the league a long time. I wouldn't, as of now, make too many implications off the fact that they brought in a guard to work out, because they brought in a lot of players to work out yesterday. It wasn't just him. They do this type of workout before every training camp. So I wouldn't take too much out of it in relations to Neal. But would I have that guy on your radar in case they do need a guard later in camp? Absolutely. That's how I would put it.
And consider this, he's played both left guard and right guard in the NFL.
Right.
Has experience at both spots. So, I mean, again, you're trying to put a puzzle piece together that that's a little step ahead of us right now because we don't know what Neal's situation is. So you're a little step ahead of us. But I understand, you're kind of trying to look further ahead and just saying, hey, just in case, I understand.
Well, I mean, are we comfortable moving forward with McKeithen again? We've kind of seen basically what his ceiling is, and we know that this O-line has been hampered by injuries and lackluster play for about a decade. So.
I would think he's behind Big Lou Stinney at this point. That would be my guess. I think Stinney would be the next guy up at guard after the Illuminor-Runyon combination.
I would think so, too. I'm inclined to agree with John. And quite frankly,
yes,
until McKeithen proves that he can stay on the field, how can you move him up on the depth chart?
Yeah, health and them just proving he's good enough to stay on the field, too. Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me come on here and hear some logic football talk because Twitter has gone berserk. So
Big Lou, and then no, Big Lou, no problem. And I'll try to give advice, and it's funny. I can't look at Giants Twitter anymore. I just can't. It's gotten very tough, and I'm someone that is and I have a rule for myself now. I generally do not post any sort of. I promote our content. I don't post Giant opinions on Twitter because the replies are always chaotic, and then if I start replying, I'm going to say something stupid, and I'm going to get myself in trouble. So
you're going to compromise your position.
Correct.
Yeah,
it just does not make any sense for me to engage. So when you guys always say, Schmeelk, why do you tweet opinions about the Knicks on Twitter but not the Giants? Well, if I get mad at somebody about the Knicks and I start yelling at them, guess what? I'm not going to get in trouble for that because I don't work for the Knicks. If I do that with the Giants, I could be in a lot of trouble. But the point I was going to make is that, look, as you guys well know, I'm a big Knicks fan. I'm a season ticket holder. I used to do a Knicks podcast and all that stuff. Knicks fandom was as downtrodden a fandom to be a part of for a better part of 15 years. It was as bad can be. And I'll be honest with you, Giants Twitter right now might be worse than I've ever seen Knicks Twitter.
It's worse.
And that's saying something, dude. That's saying a lot.
And I mean, the stuff that they come up with and say, it's like, dude, did you ever play football? Where do you pull these takes from? It's just, it's crazy. Some of the stuff that I see on there. So I'll avoid it. I post my stuff on YouTube. I make my YouTube videos. I follow you guys religiously. And, I put out positive content and factual content. A lot of people out there just clickbaiting and making Daniel Jones hate videos and Joe Shane hate videos. And I'm like, I don't understand half the takes that I read or see. So I stay off of Twitter now because it's gotten crazy.
Smart man. Thank you, Big Lou. Do you have anything else for us, or that's it?
Oh, thank you guys.
Are you coming to camp?
Are
you coming to camp?
No, I go to every draft, and I do a tailgate block party at MetLife Stadium every year live on YouTube with the Big Blue Crew Sports Network.
Do you really?
YouTube channel.
Wow. Okay. Oh, I'm glad to hear that you're keeping the wheels turning.
Oh yeah, we work with Alex a lot with Big Blue in the Bronx.
Excellent.
Oh, nice. Good stuff, Big Lou. Appreciate the call, my friend.
Be well.
Thank you, guys. Keep up the great work.
By the way, thank you, Ben. And by the way, I appreciate the passion. The passion of Giant fans on Twitter is awesome. I love the way you guys care about it so much, and I love the way that, you're enthusiastic and you love the team and you want them to be better. And everyone's entitled to their own opinions. You're free to post on Twitter and do whatever you want to do. I'm just explaining why I don't engage because it can do no good for me, generally speaking. If you want to come and talk to us, you can call in. We have a show where we literally talk to the fans. So if you want to talk to me and talk to the fans about the Giants, come in and call us here. But I'm not going to do the whole thing on Twitter. And again, guys, I understand it's been a rough bit here for the Giants. It has not been a very successful stretch here. I get everyone being upset. You have the right to be upset. I'm just explaining where I'm at in terms of that situation.
The definition of a fan is that they care.
Yeah.
And whether or not you care one way or the other, at least you have passion and feelings about the team. If you did not care about the team and just totally walked away, then you wouldn't be a fan anymore.
Correct.
That's it.
201-939-4513. By the way, the first thing I think of, and I'm not sure if you've heard these commercials, have you heard the Big Lou, I think it's a life insurance commercial on the radio that they play sometimes?
I don't think so.
Yeah, there's this big commercial, and I'm not going to give a sponsor, don't worry. It's frankly, I don't even know who it is. There's a sponsor, so if you need term life insurance, call. Oh, even if you've had 2 heart attacks or and it's always, at the end of the spot, it's always, call Big Lou. Because he has high cholesterol too. Or there's another commercial where they're like, do you have an ex-wife but you already have to pay for her life insurance but you need another policy? And that's kind of the commercial goes. And then at the end he goes, call Big Lou. he's got 3 ex-wives too. That's like whenever I see Big Lou, that's always what I think about, and it's funny. That's
Wow.
it.
This is Steve Covino from Covino and Rich. The 24 Toyota Tacoma and Tundra both ranked in the top 10 for resale value among vehicles for 2024 according to Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com. So choose a Toyota and be confident that your vehicle will hold its value year after year, ride after ride. Visit buyatoyota.com to find out more. Vehicles projected resale value is specific to the 2024 model year. For more information, visit Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com. Kelley Blue Book is a registered trademark of Kelley Blue Book Company, Inc. Toyota, let's go places.
All right, let's go to Steve in Ohio. He's up next. If you listen to local radio or Sirius, those things pop up all the time. Steve, what's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good. Hey, I just want to talk about the offense here a little bit.
Sure.
I just think that if Coach Dable calls plays, he has a way of getting Daniel into rhythm, and I just think if he gets in a rhythm and he's got enough protection, I think everybody's underestimating our offense big time. We got weapons now with our receivers, and I don't know. That's all I wanted. I just think that we're going to do a lot better than people are giving us credit for.
Hey, look, Steve, I hope you're right, and I think the key here is that you hope the weapons in the offensive line are literally the 2 best group of players that Daniel Jones has had working with him since he's been here. And you hope that translates to better success. And we have to wait to see if it actually works, Paul, but I think that's what Joe Shane and his group has tried to do this year, to put Jones in the best situation he's been in since he's been a member of the Giants.
There's no question. That was the priority. And you know, the receiver room, we just went over the depth chart, right? This is the deepest receiver room the Giants have had in a long time. When you talk about the quality of the guys who are fighting for the 6th spot, John, that's good. That's a good group of guys fighting to be number 6.
I think the depth we know is good. The question is, can Neighbors be the guy at the top?
Well,
that everyone that is a legit one. That
I
think we all think he can, but we just haven't seen it yet.
Right. He needs to be the difference maker, and that's what would separate the room from some of the other people in the league.
Yeah,
he can raise them to that extra level. Mm-hmm. I think when you talk about Jones, yes, the offensive line, it's a show me situation, right? They've done some retooling, but now they got to show us. Same thing with the running back core. They've had to retool the running back room too, and it's a show me situation. You know, Singletary's been steady, durable, reliable, does all the fundamental things well, but he's got to go out and do it again for this team. And Tracy or Gray, one of those guys, or maybe both of them, are going to have to step up and make sure that they have a role on this team too, because you can't put it all in Singletary. John, he's not a bell cow. He's not touching the ball 320 times. He's not.
Well, very few running backs do these
Very
days.
few running backs do. So at least one of those 2 guys has to step up and show us something that we just don't know yet. Yeah. They're projections.
I think with if Dable makes play calls and he's on the sideline, I just think you get a better feel for the game and what needs to happen than you do sitting up in the booth. I just think it's going to be a big deal this year. I really do. I can see us going to the playoffs easily.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the call, my friend. Hey, look, Daniel Jones had his best year 2 years ago with Mike Kafka calling plays. I think whether it's Kafka or Dable calling plays, whoever it ends up being, I think they'll be fine. I think Dable's going to be heavy involved in the play calling anyway, whether or not he's the guy calling the plays or not. I don't think that's that big of a deal. I do know that, I will say this, I have as much faith in Brian Dable as I would in anyone in the NFL, you know, about calling a good game. If he wants to do it and he decides to go that path, I think he's going to put Daniel Jones in a great situation to succeed. But to me, and I know I drive fans nuts with this, we're still at the point here with the Giants where it's much more about the players than it is play calling. Eventually, when you get enough good players here, then play calling is going to matter a whole lot to make a big difference. But until you get a reasonable level of performance on the offensive line, and again, the wide receiver room, play calling is going to impact things, but there's only so much you can do. If you can't protect for more than a couple seconds, I don't care who your play caller is. It's hard to call plays in that situation and guys aren't getting open. So if they can do those things, yes, the play calling can matter, but I think Mike Kafka is a good play caller. I think Brian Dable, we know, is an awesome play caller. I get why fans would be excited if they know that Brian Dable's doing it, because we've seen what he can do when he's calling plays, and he's done a really good job. And the fact that he turned the Giants' offense 2 years ago into a top 15 offensive outfit in terms of EPA per play and things like that 2 years ago, when it revolved a lot around Daniel Jones running, I mean, that makes a big difference too.
Sure it does. I think one other point that weaves both of your points together into almost a third point. If the Giants' offensive line can protect enough to do what they want to do with just 5 guys, now that opens up your tight end to become more involved in the passing game because he doesn't have to stay in as much on the edge and help out. That in itself is a tremendous benefit to the creativity of your playbook. And then the other part to this too, remember, okay, if your 5 guys protect, there can also be a whole chapter of your playbook where you might just run empty backfield and have your tight end go out, and now you are totally not even worried about a back with a chip. Now we're just saying, you know what? We're going to send 5 targets out. Empty backfield, 5 targets out, and our 5 guys, if they can hold up, now all of a sudden you've got some very funky stuff in that chapter of the playbook that you can bring out to the field.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to interview Warren Sharp at some point next week. He comes out with his book every year. It's really detailed. He's awesome. And we'll talk about this. But, you know, he went through some of the numbers, and one thing the Giants struggled with last year was early in games, early down passing. And a big reason was protection. And it brought me back, and I never put numbers on it. I didn't sort through it. I didn't do my, sorting in Pro Football Focus to get those specific plays, but Warren did. And, they had one of the highest pressure rates and lowest success rates on early down passing games. And I thought back to my tape watching when I went back and I watched all of Daniel Jones' snaps a few weeks ago. There's so many plays where you're running an under center play action pass, you're max protecting with 7 guys, which means, or 8. There were plays with only 8 too, and only 2 or 3 guys were going out into your route, and the opposing team was rushing 4 or 5 players, and they would still get pressure with 4 or 5 rushing against 7 or 8. You cannot run an offense that way. He had an unbelievable number. I hate to spoil the huddle for next week, but this will be a little teaser for you because I was going through the notes this morning preparing for the interview.
Drop it, man. Drop it.
So I think you were on the show with me when I talked about when I went through all of Daniel Jones' tape,
yes.
Right? And remember I said on the first drive against Dallas, I thought he got pressure on every play? He went through it. In that game, he was pressured on 67% of his dropbacks. He said he went back to every individual game since 2010. It was the highest pressure rate in any game in the NFL since the year 2000.
For any quarterback.
That's what he said in his note in his book.
Wow.
That's how that so it's not just fair to say it was bad. You have to understand the level to which it was bad. And again, that's just one game. And the other games weren't as bad as that, so it's not like it was that in every
game. The Seattle
game
must have been pretty close.
Well, the thing about the Seattle game, they were getting the ball out so quick in the first 2.5 quarters that guys didn't have time to get pressure.
And then it got real bad.
Well, yeah, because they got down 2 scores.
Exactly.
And they had to throw it in the fourth quarter.
Exactly.
And he got sacked 5 times in 1 quarter.
See, so now we're asking for the reverse, right? We're saying you had 7 and 8 guys in, and they got through. Now we're saying keep only 5 guys in and hold them out. We're asking for exactly the reverse.
Paul, if they could protect well with 6 against 4 and send 4 guys out on a route, I'll take that based on what we saw last year.
I know.
Where do I sign?
This is why the competent level of play out of the front 5, that starting offensive line, it all works off of that. This is why we tell you all the time, Football 101 starts in the trenches. And because everything envelopes out of that.
And the pressure rate on Jones, too, was, I think, second highest in the league. Mm-hmm. His average time to throw was just 12th. It was 12th fastest. So it's not like it's not like he was holding the ball a ton.
No.
It's not like he was, top 5 and longest times to throw. It was like 2 point. Oh, what was it? I don't have it in front of me. But anyway, go check out the huddle next week. But it wasn't like he was holding the ball forever, and that's why the pressure was coming. In fact, he actually had a higher pressure rate than Tommy DeVito, even though Tommy DeVito had almost 3 to 4 tenths of a second longer average time to throw. So, again, the line got better as the season went along. So that's the point I'm trying to make.
And think about that.
And again, not to say that Daniel can't do better handling pressure, taking sacks, and getting the ball out. Part of that's on the quarterback too. But just understand the first 6 games last year, it was so bad it's an outlier. It was so bad.
And yet, as adept as he was at trying to get the ball out quicker and getting a respectable time in terms of release, he still took 1,000 too many hits. Not just sacks. Hits.
He got hit a lot.
Hits, and that's how you get hurt.
Yeah. All right, so we already talked to Big Lou, Paul. So now we got Big Pat.
Come on, Big Ed, where are you? You got to make the hat trick.
Yeah, we do, actually.
We need you, Big Ed.
We need you. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me?
Well, we got you loud and clear, Big Pat. What do you got?
Hi.
What's going on? Big Lou is one of my co-founders of the Big Blue Crew Sports Network.
There you go.
Nice.
It's kind of destiny for us to be talking to you together. Once one shows up, we all show out.
Do you have any little people on your show or only big people, Pat?
No, we got NYG 22 Unpopular Opinion Sports. We got Joe, Classified 3F with Joe. We are a huge conglomerate, man, and we go to every draft and we do content, man. I got almost 5,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh,
I
that's
would
great.
love for you guys to come to one of our live shows.
Yeah, Pat. Hey, Pat. Let us know. We're always happy to come on and talk to reasonable people on their podcast. We always love to do it.
Yeah, I think I follow you guys on Twitter. I'll send you a DM, and you know it's me. My question was, guys, you guys know that in the 2 Eli Manning Super Bowl years, we had a trio of receivers that we could count on.
Mm-hmm.
And first Super Bowl was Plax, it was Steve Smith, and it was Monty Toomer.
Yep. Well, Smith was hurt most of that season, remember.
In the playoffs, though, he played a role.
In the end, he was very important. But for most of that season, he was injured.
Yeah. So, but when they were all three together in the playoffs, they did pretty well for us, and they led us to a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
In 2011, it was Nix, Cruz, and Manningham.
Yep.
So my question is, are the Giants secretly doing it again with Neighbors Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson?
I don't think it's a secret, Big Pat. I think they're doing it pretty openly, to be honest with you. Yes, 100%.
They're telling the world that that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and so if this offensive line blocks, like you guys were saying, it's ridiculous, that stat that you just put out, 67% of the time being pressured in the game, that is absolutely ridiculous. But if this offensive line shows up this year, which is a major if, how do you think those guys can really dictate to the defense? Like, the past couple of years, you know that the defense has literally had their eyes on Daniel Jones the whole time. And like you said, we would have 7 people blocking and 4 people would get in like it's a blitz. And so you're able to keep your eyes on the quarterback. And a lot of the times when I was looking at film, DBs weren't even getting out their back pedal. And if DBs are not getting out their back pedal and they're able to keep their eyes on Daniel Jones the whole time, it's almost literally impossible to get the ball to 3 receivers against 7 in coverage and pressure. So do you guys believe that these guys can, turn it up this season if the offensive line blocks? Like, how do you guard that speed and that route running with those 3 guys?
Well, what you're hoping is that if you're standard 5, or even if you want to go 6, like John said before, if they can hold up, now you're forcing the defensive coordinator to start bringing an extra guy, which means one less guy in coverage against the guys that you believe have the juke ability and the route running skills
and speed
to get open. I mean, again, this is why it goes back to the offensive line. Everything that the offensive line does or doesn't do has a spider web ripple effect on every other facet of the game. This is football 101, fellas. It's been this way forever.
This is LeVar Arrington from Up On Game. The 24 Toyota Tacoma and Tundra both rank in the top 10 for resale value among all vehicles for 2024, according to Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com. So choose a Toyota and be confident that your vehicle will hold its value year after year, ride after ride. Visit buyatoyota.com to find out more. Vehicles' projected resale value is specific to the 2024 model year. For more information, visit Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com. Kelley Blue Book is a registered trademark of Kelley Blue Book Company, Inc. Toyota. Let's go places.
Yeah, it's been this way forever, and I keep trying to tell people that your offensive line is probably the most important part of your offense, because if your offensive line is not blocking, you can't run the ball. If they're not blocking, you can't run the schemes that you want to run because your quarterback doesn't have time to get through his progressions. Yes, the quarterback is the most important position on the football field, but he's also the most dependent. Because if he can't depend on his offensive line to block for him, if he can't depend on his receivers to run routes and get catches, he's ineffective as well. So I do believe that this offense can actually be dynamic if our offensive line is ranked in the top 18. Let's just say the top 18 instead of being ranked 38th out of 32.
Let me put it to you this way. In 2022, right, when the Giants made the playoffs, the offensive line was functional. I'm not even going to go into anybody's grades or anybody's stats in terms of how many sacks they gave up. We watched the games. They were functional. They were able to run most of what they had in their playbook, but they did rely more heavily on the run than Brian Daboll instinctively wants to do. Right, John? Mm-hmm. We've often said this. Mm-hmm. Okay, what did they have? They had the headed player in Barkley, who commanded respect from the defense, and they had Daniel Jones, who had to become a dual threat because of his legs. What they did not have was a truly dynamic wide receiver room. They had Slayton, who came on late.
Well, I'm gonna before you get to the next name, I'm gonna let you guys guess. Who do you guys think was the second leading wide receiver in 2022?
Second leading? Well, we know Richie James had 57 catches to lead the team. Who was second?
It was Boston, wasn't it?
Was it Hodgins?
Yes, Richie James was second. And third was Hodgins. That is correct.
Yeah,
and he might not.
We're talking receivers, not running
receivers.
backs. Just receivers.
And Hodgins might not make the team this year.
Right.
And he was your number 3, and towards the end of the year, closer to your number 2 wide receiver over the course of that year.
And that goes directly to the point that we're trying to talk about here when we're talking about the wide receiver room. How if your offensive line can just be functional, just be good enough, okay? We've seen that Jones, with that level in front of him, can do some damage even with a subpar receiver room. Now he's got a receiver room which should be a heck of a lot better than that.
Exactly. Because if he was able to do damage with Richie James, Hodgins, and Slayton that came on late, and I think if they give Slayton the number 2 job, I think he's going to share snaps with Hyatt because I think they want Hyatt to develop. But Slayton could be a heck of a number 2 receiver opposite of Neighbors. I think Slayton can show out this year as well.
Well, Slayton doesn't even have to be the 2. He just has to be one of the top 4. Whether or not numbers-wise, Slayton, Robinson, Hyatt, Neighbors, however the numbers shake out. Because the Giants, I think, and maybe you'll disagree, John, I don't think you will. The Giants, even though Neighbors is going to be their most key impact threat, at least we hope he is, right? They're going to spread the ball around a lot to these guys.
I think they were going to manufacture a lot of touches from Malik Neighbors.
Well, yeah, they will. But I think the other 3 guys, it doesn't matter who the number 2 guy is, they're going to want to mix and match and keep people guessing and get maximum production out of the room.
I agree.
So, anyway.
I agree with that, too.
All right. Thank you, Big Pat. Appreciate the call.
Hey, thank you guys, man. Appreciate you guys. And I'm going to send you that DM. And if you could come on live on the Big Blue Crew Sports Network, man, that'd be an honor.
All right. Sounds
you got
good,
it.
Big Pat. Appreciate it. Big Pat, Big Lou.
Remember in 2011, John, and we've talked so much about the 3 receivers on that Super Bowl team. Well, yeah, Nix and Cruz, 1 and 2, 2 and 1. Manningham was clearly the number 3. Does anybody really want to undervalue what Manningham brought to that team?
Yeah.
He was huge.
I got a question. Bob's in the room, too. I'm going to ask him also.
Yeah.
In 2007, who was the Giants' 3rd leading wide receiver in the regular season? You can go first, Paul. Who was the Giants' 3rd leading wide receiver in the 2007 regular season?
I didn't know you were asking me.
I'm asking everybody.
Oh.
He says Dominic Hickson. Dominic Hickson, that is not correct. Dominic Hickson only had 1 regular season catch in 2007.
2007.
That was Bob guessing Dominic Hickson. Good guess, but no.
Oh, my goodness. Hickson would have been my guess.
This is the tough one. That's why I'm asking the question.
It's
I was looking
very
at it. It's very hard.
Question.
Is he a wide receiver?
It's
only wide receivers. Of the wide receivers, who was the 3rd leading receiver?
It's not Devin Thomas.
No, he does not. He does not even have a catch.
Right, because he was a special teams guy.
Yep.
Who would have been 3rd? That's right.
Yeah, Devin Thomas was 11.
2007. So that's the Arizona Super Bowl.
Yep. Who's the third leading wide receiver in the regular season? It's a great trivia question. I love it.
It really is. Well, Tyree was on that team, but he didn't catch much.
Well, I'm not going to tell you yes or no. You got to give me an answer.
Fine.
Bob already gave his guess.
Well, I know he was on the team, so I'll say Tyree.
David Tyree had 4 catches for 35 yards that year. So, no.
That did not make it
Nope.
right.
Steve Smith, you mentioned him, 8 catches, 63 yards. Not him either. You guys are both missing one player who's kind of like a giant of lore type of guy that we tend to make jokes about sometimes, that was actually third in receptions that year.
Really?
I'll give you I have a hint, but I think it's going to give it away.
Of course it will. Bobby and I are totally flummoxed right now.
He has a relative that also played in the National Football League. I thought that would give it away. Played the same position in the National Football League.
Oh, my God. Don't tell me Moss.
Sonoris Moss, baby.
Really?
Third leading wide receiver. 21 catches for 225 yards.
He was?
Good old Sonoris, baby.
Wow.
Speaking of training camp kings, hello, Sonoris Moss. How about that?
Yeah.
Number 3.
Man, there back-to-back preseasons. He wound up sticking because he came up with a big preseason game that allowed him to sneak onto the 53.
Oh, he was so fast and quick, you couldn't cover him in practice.
I know.
The problem is that in games, someone could hit him, and then it wasn't so easy.
Right. Wow.
But good dude, though.
See you, Bob.
Guy. Yes, Bob's laughing. Yeah, Burris was 70 for 1025.
Yeah.
Toomer.
Oh, my goodness.
Amadi Toomer was 59 for 760. Kevin Boss, by the way, only 9 catches for 118 yards.
Yeah.
In the regular season that year.
I know. That's what caught the
Shockey,
Patriots by surprise in the Super Bowl.
Shockey was 57
Yeah.
for 619. Obviously, I wasn't counting him in the conversation. Not a wide receiver. And the only other wide receiver to have a catch that year was Anthony Mix. He had 3 catches for 39 yards.
And he wasn't even on a team the whole season.
No, he only played in 4 games.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Brandon London?
No, Brandon London.
He was practice squad the whole year.
Yes, he was practice squad.
He was on my personal 53 coming out of training camp, and he didn't make it.
Oh, so you're the one that jinxed him.
I jinxed him. I had him on my 53.
Does he know that?
He knows that.
Okay.
I had him on my 53, and I had him ahead of Mix.
No wonder he doesn't like you. I'm not surprised.
And he didn't make it.
All right, let's go to Joe in Wappingers Falls. He's going to be our final caller today. Joe, what's going on, pal?
Good afternoon, guys. Paul, I did not realize until I started listening to the podcast that you were a Fordham guy.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
FUV, Bobby and I both.
Joe, I mean, how did you miss the Paul Dottino statue on campus when you're walking through campus? I mean, it's right there. It's bronze. It's just like his skin color, and it's sitting there right in the middle of campus. It's right there.
I haven't been back in a long while. I think I graduated before Paul, a little before Paul.
To be fair, there are so many WFUV guys in the New York market doing sportscasting that it's easy to get lost in that shuffle.
And the best
because
part,
there's a ton of us.
Given what Paul does, it's not one of these like normal statues. The statue actually moves, so it walks throughout campus very quickly, and it
eats pasta.
Yes, it eats pasta, and they serve it chicken parm every day. As it walks around campus.
That's when I first learned how to speed walk. Because I had to get around campus. I was a commuter, and I had to carry those heavy books in the book bag, and I had to get from building to building, and that's where I first learned how to speed walk.
Back when it was still a commuter school.
Absolutely. Hey, Joe, real quick, Paul, question for you. If I was to have that statue all time to wear one Giants jersey, what player would you pick?
Sims.
You go Sims.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would have guessed LT. Okay. Joe, go ahead. What do you got?
Quick cap question.
Yes.
The thing that Ohtani pulled with the Dodgers, deferring everything and only taking like $1 million or $2 million this year, that's not allowed under the NFL rules, correct?
Correct.
No way in the world.
And by the way,
they let you get away with that.
And even some of that deferred money still does get accelerated into the MLB cap. It's not all on the back end. A percentage of it gets moved up. But no, you would not be able to pull that off with the NFL. The NFL kind of has they kind of have a way to do that, Joe, with what they call void years. So basically what you do, you'll tack on, I think the maximum is 4. is 4 void years at the end of a contract,
Correct.
and that'll allow you to spread your signing bonus out for an additional 4 years. That'll bring your overall cap number down, but you can't technically defer money in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't follow sports as closely as I used to, but from what I've seen, the NFL has the fairest caps, especially for the small market teams.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the only, I mean, I don't know about hockey. You guys would have to inform me about that. But,
I don't know about hockey
MLB does not have a hard cap. They have a luxury tax system. The NBA, you can go over the cap to sign your own players, so they don't have a hard cap. So the NFL is the only, again, I don't know about hockey.
Hockey has a cap, but here's the thing.
Is it hard, though?
Yeah, but they have some buyout clauses where you can buy a guy out.
You can get out of bad contracts?
And get out of a bad contract. You'll have to pay a certain penalty to do it, but you can buy a guy out.
Is the penalty money related, or do you
yes,
like
it's money related. No, it's money related. There is a charge when you buy a guy out.
Thank you. Okay, back to the question about the offensive line and passing game and everything else this year.
Yeah.
One thing I did not hear you guys mention, and which I'd like to address, have you guys speak to, is the importance of getting the running game going to open up a lot of this other stuff you're talking about as well. Because if you can get the running game going, it'll reduce the amount of yardage you need, gain a first down on second and third or whatever, and opens up the book more. And B, it also kind of limits the defensive coordinators in what personnel packages they can roll out there, because if you're running the ball too well, then they can't just throw out the nickel and dime packages willy-nilly. They have to stop and think about who their personnel is a little bit more and what they have to do to stop your running game.
Joe, I'll be real quick. And I'll let Paul take it. I think it's going to be the opposite this year.
So do I.
It's going to be the pass that sets up the run. They're going to make teams defend the pass, try to create some light boxes, and then exploit the light boxes with the run game because of what they're able to do throwing the football.
Joe, what you're talking about is the old school way that Parcells and Coughlin ran it, and that's how the Giants won 4 Super Bowls. That's my instinctive way to go as well. But you have to understand, the league has changed, the talent has changed, the makeup of some of these rosters has changed, and you have to be flexible. Sure they have. The rules have dramatically changed to favor the pass.
I finally have dragged Paul across the finish line, kicking and screaming. He finally got there.
Well,
congratulations.
I'm looking at the roster. Let me say something to you, right? You can't use the run to set up the pass if you don't have the intimidating running back. And Barkley's not here anymore. He doesn't command that respect as a headache player. Singletary does not. Barkley did.
Right.
Singletary doesn't. So that kind of works against you if you want to use the run first. The other thing that works against you is this offensive line. Illuminor, Runyon, Schmitz, they're more technique-oriented. They're not power bulldozing run blockers, straight ahead power run blockers.
I think running left behind Illuminor and Thomas, you might be able to.
That's the other thing I overlooked about,
but that's just one direction. The rest of the line is not.
I mean, Neal should be able to be.
He should be, but he hasn't shown it.
No, he hasn't shown it.
So this, I think their skill set as a whole, the starting 5 as we projected, is a better pass blocking team and a better technique-oriented team than a power or physical muscular kind of team, at least how I see the starting 5. So they're going to be better suited to the short pass game as the pseudo run. So I think they got to go that way. I really do. John and I were talking about this at the Combine. The way this roster's shaken out, it kind of smells of that style of play.
And Runyon is a better pass protector than
There's
run
no doubt.
blocker. So,
There's no doubt.
No, I'm with you, Joe. I'm with you, Paul.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up, guys.
No, thank you for the call, my friend. Appreciate it.
You know, there's no Hammer back there. There's no Brandon Jacobs back there. There's no Tiki Barber back there. There's no Barkley back there. You know, now how can you lean on the run game when you don't have a bell cow back there?
Don't forget, folks, the Giants official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. A couple minutes to go here, folks. We'll do a couple more things real quick. And then and don't forget, Giants tickets. Take your fam to the next level with a season ticket membership. You can stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, Giants.com/tickets, limited inventory. And while you're there, go check out a chance to run or walk with Giants legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K racing kids run presented by Quest on Saturday, September 7th, 9 a.m. MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt, and after the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. One other note, folks, I've had a bunch of, messages on Twitter. A lot of people coming back to us for the regular season, and we've had some questions about, why haven't I heard Lance on the show? Guys, as I spoke about on a prior show, I just want to make sure everyone knows this. We're trying to kind of bring in more in-house people that are here and working for the team on the show a lot more for various reasons. We love Lance. He's great. We hope to have him on stuff moving forward, but in terms of a regular host on Big Blue Kickoff Live, it's going to be Paul, myself, SciTac, and then some of our former players. We'll have a couple surprises in the regular season as well. And again, guys, love Lance. He's great. He's a good friend of mine, good friend of Paul's. So that's just a change that we've decided to make here moving forward here as we go. And again, we hope Lance could be in the mix later on. We just don't know how or if or when that's going to happen. So just wanted to give you a heads up on where we are with that. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Paul, anything to add before we get our first practice tomorrow?
Yeah, one more thing. I just saw a commercial for NBC in the Olympics on Friday in Paris, and the Eli Olympics that they had the other day on the Eli Manning show. Go to Giants.com, check it out.
Is the opening ceremony Friday? Is that what the opening ceremony is?
And Eli and Sean O'Hara do their own version of the Eli Olympics.
Pearson, you were out there. Do you want to give us a little tease on what people might have for that?
I just got to say, it was a blast. It's fun.
Yeah, it's been
fun.
up for about a week now, but they do a great obstacle course, and since they're best friends, they're just jabbing each other the whole time. It's really fun.
And I believe it goes down to like a very dramatic tiebreaker.
It comes down to a very dramatic tiebreaker.
You should see him try and kick field goals. It's pretty funny.
You got to watch it, folks. I could honestly tell you it was a piece of creative genius and a lot of fun to watch.
Who's the creative genius?
I think all the folks who were involved with Dan Cullinan's group on the Eli Manning show, they all kind of get together, and I believe they collaborate. But it just came out really good. It's one of the funnier ones that he's ever done.
See,
Eli
Pearson,
Manning.
I give him a chance to kiss the rear end of his boss, and then he chooses not to mention the boss. When I give him the chance to, kiss some butt over here to give people credit. What's up with that?
Are you saying Don?
No, yeah, I thought I thought he was going to say our fearless leader, but he decided not to include him in the Eli Manning show.
Don actually wasn't there for that one.
Oh, was he not?
No.
Okay, so now Pearson's throwing Don under the bus. I like that. They were 2 for 2 here.
I'm just saying Dan Cullen, he deserves a lot of the
no,
praise
Dan's
there.
awesome. I know that. It's just funny.
I'm just saying.
For Paul Dottino and Pearson Butler, I'm John Schmeelk. Thanks for being with us on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. First training camp practice tomorrow. Stay tuned to Big Blue Kickoff Live. We're back at 1. We'll have everything that happened at practice. We have Brian Dable and Joe Shane at the podium tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of reaction to episode 5.
That's
of Hard
before
Knocks.
practice. That's early.
That's at 9 a.m., and then we'll have all the media with the players after practice tomorrow. We'll review all of it on Big Blue Kickoff Live tomorrow. It'll be Matt SciTac and I. We'll see you then at 1 o'clock.
Vitamin Water was born in New York because New Yorkers wanted more. Like more flavor to go with all the flavor. A refreshing drink after climbing 6 flights of stairs to a walk-up apartment or standing in the subway station in 100-degree heat. Drink Vitamin Water. It's from New York.
Getting ready to take on spring? Make your first move with the reliable performance and power of Steel battery tools. From hedge trimmers and mowers to string trimmers and more, right now, you can save $50 on select battery tool sets. Real Steel. Offer valid on select AK system sets through June 16, 2024. See participating retailer for details.